I think you should, of course, keep your wits about you, trust your intuition, be smart, like don't go get drunk and just like wander through the streets in the middle of the night, that kind of thing. But you don't have to assume that everyone has malicious intent or they're out to hurt you, because the human condition truly is universal. And I think, bad apples are few and far between in every country, right? But the vast majority of people are good.
Hi, I'm Kim Tolson and I'm the traveling therapist. It's my passion to teach therapists how to navigate online private practices and multiple income streams so they can travel the world. I'm a digital nomad with a virtual insurance-based private therapy practice and a multi-six-figure coaching business. I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship and developing tools that can help therapists live an adventurous lifestyle. In this podcast, I will discuss my journey as a digital nomad. I'll chat with other traveling therapists and help you navigate the complexities of running an online insurance-based practice. I'm so glad to have you with me on this journey. Building a private practice can be challenging. I know for me, when I was starting out, I had no idea how to get referrals. I had no idea how to manage paperwork. I knew nothing about insurance billing. The whole process was really daunting. Building a private practice can be challenging, to say the least. I remember when I was starting out, I had no idea how to get referrals. I had no idea how to navigate insurance. I had no idea even what paperwork was required. So growing a caseload, navigating insurance, and managing billing and paperwork all take significant amounts of time. And that's all in addition to delivering great care to your clients. That's why Alma gives clinicians the tools they need to build a thriving private practice. When you join their insurance program, you can get credentialed within 45 days and access to enhanced reimbursement rates. They also handle all the paperwork from eligibility checks to claim submissions, and they guarantee payment within 2 weeks of each appointment. So in addition to their insurance program, Alma also offers time-saving tools and administrative support, so you can spend less time on paperwork and more time delivering great care to your clients and traveling the world. Learn more about building a thriving private practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Kim. That's helloalma.com/KYM to get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Traveling Therapist Podcast. I'm super excited today because I have another guest in our series of non-therapist type guests that are experts at traveling and different topics around traveling. So today I'm really excited to welcome Julie Rose here with us. She's going to tell you all about her life and how she's managing this whole thing and some really specific nuances that she's figured out as a solo traveler and around safety and dating and just all that good stuff. So Julie, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I would love if you'd introduce yourself and tell the guests about your story and just sort of like what qualifies you as a traveler to give us advice on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. So I guess probably the most notable thing that people have known me for is I kind of decided to leave the traditional way of life behind and become a nomad. And I've been documenting it all along the way. So in 2020, when the pandemic happened, of course, we were all kind of trapped inside and working from home and deciding, wait a second, if this is what my life is going to be, if I can work from home, why not work from anywhere? And I sort of had a realization that I wanted to have more travel. I wanted to be out there in the world. I was sort of sick of living every day over and over again, basically, and thought I'm going to sell my house, get rid of all these burdens and obligations and responsibilities, and just have total freedom. So I decided to put my house on the market. I used to live in Phoenix, then sort of take my dog, just the few things that would fit in the car, and drive off. And so I've been sharing a lot of my perspectives and revelations along the way on my blog and on social media. And really kind of what I've seen is that lots of people have sort of followed in those nomadic footsteps as work remote has become so popular and so possible as well. And a lot of people are also sort of reprioritizing and reassessing their life's choices and maybe saying, I don't need to do the house and the office job and the things that we're told we're supposed to do, because there's another way to live now. And so I'm just kind of happy to share some of my experiences along the way as this solo person, just traveling the world, sometimes alone, sometimes with my dog, and rarely in the US. So it's been really exciting and I feel really fortunate.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I was really excited when I saw your website because I was like, okay, she ticks all these boxes of really obstacles that the traveling therapists run into. It's like, by myself, I have a pet, I am single, how do I date? All of these things. And then even the safety piece around traveling as a solo woman, that's sort of a controversial topic that comes up in our Facebook group. Some people say it's completely safe. Some people say I'd never go by myself. So I'm glad that you've got all these things in this little box that we could talk about and maybe give some advice to everybody about. So let's start with the solo travel. What is that like for you? Like, what does it look like? How do you manage that part of it?
Well, I think the big misconception about solo travel is that you're always alone and that you're lonely, which one, alone is a state of being while lonely is a state of mind. So, completely different perspectives. And then also too, as a solo traveler, you're not in a bubble. You're not in a vacuum. You're not out here like on a deserted island like Wilson and Castaway, like that's not what solo travel is. It's just, hey, I don't have this other person with me as my crutch or as my partner or as someone to share, the navigation with and share the planning with. This is all me, like everything that I'm doing, that I'm needing to figure out with like the currency calculation and the language and the how do I get from A to B and where do I stay? And that is all me. And so one of the beautiful things that I have gotten out of solo travel is just a sense of confidence. And it really like feeds my bravery. And I hear this all the time. Oh my gosh, Julie, you're so brave. For example, I'm driving through Mexico. I've been driving through Mexico this entire year. And people look at me like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Like, look at you go. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, sure, this is unusual and different. And a lot of Americans would probably be scared to drive in Mexico. But I've worked up to this because I've accomplished all these things and all the places I've gone to. And, just the very like, which bus do I take in Ecuador several years ago has now translated into, I have driven 15,000 kilometers in Mexico. So, I think with solo travel, it's not a muscle we all sort of wake up and be like, yeah, I'm good at this. Like, you're not automatically like, yeah, I'm really good at this. You've got to work up to it. And the way that you do that is doing more traveling, doing solo traveling for longer, going to an even more foreign place, going to a place that pushes you and stretches you and doing it in a way or a style that is different than what you're used to. And so, I tell everyone sort of like, you don't have to be this, super courageous Wonder Woman overnight, but dip your toe in a little bit and increase the solo experiences that you bring in, that you surround yourself with, that you decide to incorporate. And then you're just going to get more and more confident and more strong in your day to day.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because even with us, we're going to be in the Dominican Republic for like 6 to 8 weeks. And we're already like, should we drive there? Like, can we drive there? And I even have a partner with me. So yeah, I like what you're saying, like build up to it. Start off with taking a bus or, understanding like the taxi system if you're like not comfortable with the driving all the way yet. Yeah. That's such a good tip. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I think there's a little bit of the preparation. Obviously, you have to like do research. You have to think about like, how can I be most prepared and like use all the common sense. But then at the same time, like you can't overthink every single detail because then you're never going to do the thing you want to do. You're never going to decide like, okay, I'm ready for that. That's just a human thing. Like, you'll never feel completely ready in any kind of big decision or any kind of scary thing you've never tried before. So you almost have to like just exercise all the, do your rationalization, your logical assessment, your analyzing, your research, but then sort of just be like, okay, I've gone as far as I can go and I'm going to do this. And then you'll be surprised at the end of it, like, dang, I did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could do anything. And that's really how I feel.
I love that. My friends and I, we have this motto, do it afraid, just like you have to, because if you overanalyze it, like you're saying, you just get stuck or paralyzed and you won't do anything. Because it's like, what if this happens? What if this happens? But I found that to be true. It's like, just show up there and then you'll figure it out. Somebody will point you to the bus station or, or say, here's how you get a taxi. I found that in almost every country I've ever been to, people are super helpful.
Yeah.
And want to help you get places. Google Translate's great. Just having a couple of tools to help you along the way if you need it. But yeah, that's such good advice. Yeah. And now you're just like, whatever, you just drive all through Mexico like it's nothing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think so. Last year I was in Mexico for 6 months. This year I've been here now 6 months and I will stay until November. And I think, the first like 30 minutes after I crossed the border, the first time I was like, oh, I'm in Mexico, like, whoa, this is crazy, and I got a little scared, but then at the same time, you're like, wait, the traffic's all going the right direction. They still have lines on the roads. Red means stop. Green means go, like I've already changed my car display to kilometers. So I know how fast I'm supposed to be going. Then it really kind of demystifies it, I'm like, okay, so, people just drive pretty much the same. There are some like different tendencies, different habits of drivers and things like that. But it's such a small thing. We blow up this stuff in our mind because it's foreign. It's different. We're a little afraid. We're not used to it. And we get in our own way because, of course, what we have in our mind is so much bigger and so much badder and so much scarier than the reality could ever be. It's almost nonsensical. You kind of just have to like, all right, I'm going to do my best and like prepare, but then I'm just going to do it. And pretty much no incidents. So I'm doing fine.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. Once you do it, it's like, oh, that wasn't that bad. It's fine. It's very rare that some terrible thing's going to happen. And even if it did, I mean, most of us are, like you said earlier, have common sense enough to try to problem solve and figure out how to get out of that situation if something happens. Yeah. But it's interesting just to think about, and you're by yourself in this country and something happens, I think that's where people get a little bit stuck. It's like, ooh, what if I can't figure it out, so yeah, I like what you're saying. Start small, sort of acclimate yourself to these new cultures and situations, and then build up to the bigger thing if it is really scaring you, like the driving through just a random country that you've never been in before.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't recommend everybody to just drive through Mexico. There's a lot of stuff you have to do, but there are benefits for me. I'm traveling with my dog. I really want to go to all these like off the beaten path places in the wee corners of Mexico. If you're just going to one city, just take a flight and take a taxi and you're going to be fine. But, you have to like really start thinking about what makes sense for me, my travel style, what makes sense for my budget, what makes sense for, the things that I have with me. My dog is a little bit on the bigger side, so I can't just put her under a plane very easily, and I really don't want to. So yeah, this just makes sense for me. So across North America, I'm driving and, got a lot of audiobooks going on when I hit the road, and then I, hop on a plane and have my mom watch my dog when I decide to go overseas. So
smart. Yeah, I was just going to ask, how do you navigate that? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So bring the dog where you can, and then have a family member or somebody watch. Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. Okay. So as we were talking about the common sense piece, what do you have to say about like safety as a solo traveler, as a female solo traveler? What advice, tips, tricks, like have you figured out along the way?
Yeah. I probably have a little bit of my advice might be a little bit controversial. And that's because I think I'm coming from a different perspective as some of the other, solo travel bloggers you might see out there. But I've seen advice like wear a fake wedding ring, don't tell anyone you're alone, which it's not to say that's horrible advice, but I think it comes from you're coming from this place of people are out to get you. And that's not that's not the outlook. That's not the perspective you want to bring on your travels. I think you should, of course, keep your wits about you, trust your intuition, be smart, don't go get drunk and just wander through the streets in the middle of the night, that kind of thing. But you don't have to assume that everyone has malicious intent or they're out to hurt you, because the human condition truly is universal. And I think, bad apples are few and far between in every country, right? But the vast majority of people are good. They're just trying to go about their day. They just want to meet you. They just want to have a conversation. We're all in search of connection. And I've never pretended that I was married or pretended that I was, I just don't, if someone's annoying me, I just don't talk to them. I don't need to fabricate this dramatic story. So I think it's really important as you travel through these other countries to come at it with an open perspective and an optimistic perspective, and sort of one where it's almost like an abundance perspective. I think when you do that, you're just going to have a completely different experience than if you came in and you're like, who's watching me? Who's looking at me sideways? Who's going to, try to follow me home tonight? I just don't think that's the perspective that you want when you start traveling.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. And even if you have that mentality of everybody's out to get me, you kind of project an image a little bit too, versus I'm super confident. I'm friendly. I feel like there's the best in everyone, that kind of energy is a different energy, I think too. If you're walking around, you seem more confident. And I hate to say less of a victim, but do you know what I mean? The tourists that are locked down with their purses and they just are looking around every corner and super nervous. I mean, I think you can just feel the energy probably.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's really important. Projecting confidence, acting like where you are, what you're doing, what's on the agenda today. If you look confused, if you look you do make yourself look like a victim, and it's not necessarily physical characteristics.
Yes.
But it's kind of a projection, like you said. And there are bad apples everywhere in the world that are going to prey on people like that, who sort of raise up the flag of, hey, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't belong here and I totally stick out. And you don't want to put that image out there either. I think one of the things that I really am focused on is, well, first I'm walking my dog, so I look like a local. I look like I belong. Actually, I have so many people ask me for directions. I'm like, oh, interesting. You must think I live here,
Because I don't.
Yes, all of these countries I've been to, people ask me directions, and it's because I'm walking around I know exactly, I have a purpose. I'm walking with a purpose. I'm tall. I'm fairly intimidating, I think, to men, for example, because I'm a tall blonde woman, but in a lot of the Latin American countries I go to, I am several inches above most of men. So I think already, I look at that Amazon person. And then, because I go in and I'm I know exactly where I'm going today and what direction I'm headed. And I don't necessarily have time to, be interrupted by whatever you're trying to sell me. I think that makes a big difference in your experience.
Yeah, I love that you said that. And it is controversial because some people will say, it doesn't matter how I look, I shouldn't, be victimized by anybody. And I totally get that. And I just want to do that little disclaimer. But there's a difference. Like you can tell, like an air of confidence. And like you said, people are asking you for directions. So you must project like, I've got my shit together. I know what I'm doing. Don't fuck with me. Like that kind of attitude. So I like that. That's really good. And you have the dog with you too. That probably helps, I would think.
Yeah.
A
I
lot
mean,
of
she's
times.
definitely so cute, and she's so cute and would never bite anybody. But, I kind of like to give some guys, sometimes, if someone's eyeing me, I kind of like, wait, don't you get any ideas, like she's vicious. So
She will bite you. I like that. Yeah.
Going in network with insurance can be tough. For example, waiting a year to get credentialed in some cases. Filing all the right paperwork is time consuming and tedious, and even after you're done, it could take months to get credentialed and start seeing clients. That's why Alma makes it easy and financially rewarding to accept insurance. When you join the insurance program, you can get credentialed within 45 days and access to enhanced reimbursement rates. They also handle all the paperwork from eligibility checks to claim submissions, and they guarantee payment within 2 weeks of each appointment. Once you've joined Alma's insurance program, you can see clients in your state of licensure regardless of where you're working from. This is particularly exciting for me as a traveling therapist, as I know it is probably for you too. You can literally be anywhere and still see your clients through Alma. Learn more about building a thriving private practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Kim. That's helloalma.com/KYM to get started.
So have you had any unsafe situations come up that you've had to deal with, or has it all been pretty smooth sailing through your travels?
I have never felt like my personal safety was threatened. I think there have been times that maybe like, all right, so, someone maybe was looking at me the wrong way, or something along those lines. But I think in those types of situations, like, okay, cross the street, create some space, get your keys out of your purse and hold them in your hand. I also think one of the things that I do, if someone is, and this goes against maybe our natural inclination, but if someone is looking at you the wrong way, look back at them and say with your eyes, I am remembering you. I'm making a mental note of this, of the way that you're looking at me. And I actually, that kind of freaks people out.
Yeah.
Eye contact freaks people out. So
Yeah.
I think largely I have not felt any way like that in Mexico. There's been other times in the past, actually in Europe, where some guys were kind of being creepy, and I had to like give them the look, like, be respectful. But largely, no. I mean, I live in Mexico City now, or I've been here for a few months. I walk around taking my dog out at midnight. She needs to go to the bathroom. She needs to go to the bathroom. So I feel completely safe. I walk a ton. I take the metro. I take, once in a while I'll take an Uber, but most of the time I'm like, I feel good being here, and really largely tourists are not targets. The cartel is not interested in you unless you want to buy and sell drugs. I think that's a big myth. Most people, most expats, most tourists in Mexico are just going through their day, moving around. No one's living in fear. And also there isn't this random violence that like there is. I think there was just another shooting just a couple days ago. And actually,
there's been like 300 this year so far.
And whenever this podcast drops, I'm sure just go back yesterday and there was probably a shooting, because this is the trajectory the US is on. We don't really have random violence like that in Mexico. Yes, there's violence. It's personal and it's targeted. And so I actually feel safer. I feel safer to go to a parade. I feel safer to go to the mall. I feel safer to go to a nightclub, because there isn't those random mass murders that you keep seeing in the news.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I've never felt unsafe. There was one time in Nicaragua, we were driving. Thank God we had my brother-in-law at the time. He was Spanish speaking. He was from Nicaragua, but we were driving through the country and there was like a random police roadblock. And they were basically saying they were collecting taxes. Basically it was like,
Mm,
y'all need to pay me to get through here.
yeah.
So luckily we had cash and luckily he spoke Spanish, but that was the only time I was like, if he hadn't been with me, like, I don't know what would have happened here. Like, I just didn't know. So that was the only really scary thing we had. Thank God he was with us. But other than that, it's been fine. Just, I mean,
Yeah.
everywhere I've been, it really has been. So yeah, I'm so glad we're having this conversation to kind of ease people's minds a little bit.
And
Yeah.
I think there's a wealth of information on the internet. And it is difficult because you can't like research every single scenario. But when I was driving through Mexico, I went into tons of the Facebook groups and like, what is the deal with the mordidas? So that's like with the bribes, and
Oh yeah.
just
Right.
wanted to get tons of advice from people. This is how you deal with mordidas. This is like what you say, how you act,
Mm.
and places to avoid. And there's so much advice. So all of that, like knowing all of that information and hearing all these people's experiences, when it happened to me, when a cop tried to shake me down, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, now I know how to play this, and
Wow. How did you play it? I want to hear. Give me
well, yeah,
advice.
I will tell you. So
Okay.
they gave up, it was one of those things where going from one border to the next, one state
Hmm.
border in Mexico to the next. Oh, it's a checkpoint. We're looking at everybody who goes through this road. So he kind of looks at me and he's like, your dog, this is in Spanish, by the way, your
Mm.
dog should be in a kennel in the car.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I don't know about that, but show me the law and I'll stand corrected. And so
Wow.
he goes back, and I'll just say also my Spanish is not great. So this
Yeah.
is, this is me speaking very slowly, like thinking in my brain, what's the word for that? And we're both sort of very like slowly trying to talk to each other because he only spoke Spanish. And so
Wow.
he goes back and he gets the little binder and he brings the binder back to me, and he has written in the margin, no pets. And then there's the rule. And I look at the rule and I'm like, that's a very big simplification. So I take my translator out and I see what he deems as no pets, what the real definition of that is. And it basically says no pets in the front seat or on people's laps.
Oh
And
my
I'm like,
gosh.
well, she's in the back seat. It doesn't say anything about a kennel. It just says no pets in the front seat and no pets on laps. She's secure. She's in the back seat. Everything's good.
Wow.
And we're going back and forth, like kind of debating whether or not she's actually safe and secure in the back seat. And he's also saying like, well, you must be rich because you're American, right? I could tell where he was
Oh my
going.
gosh.
There's so much innuendo. They can't go outright ask for money. So
Mm.
they like, your situation is a tax. Or
Right.
he's suggesting like, well, I want to help you. I could make this go away and you're rich. But I just was very patient and I'm like, no, I'm camping. I'm not rich. And I'm happy to go to the police station and pay it if it is an actual law that I'm breaking and you write me a real ticket, but I will not just hand you money, basically.
Wow.
I
Good for you.
sat there on the side of the road for like 25 minutes while we've been back and forth, talking.
Wow.
And finally he was just like, okay, I'm bored of you. Like you were
I'm
supposed
not
to
getting
be,
any money out of you.
no, because he's thinking, he's like, you were supposed to be scared and you were just supposed to hand me the money right away. But
Yeah.
you're calm, you're taking your time. I was still like friendly. I'm like, well, I don't think that's the case, and I
Wow.
still had a smile on my face, but really he's like, okay, this is not worth my brain power to deal with you because you are never going to bend. And so, yeah, I drove away thinking like, part of me was like, well, if it's a real law and you write me a real ticket, okay, I'll go to the police station and pay it. But I'm not just going to hand you money because I know that's a bribe and that's illegal for me and for you. And so, yeah, he just said, okay, I'm going to let you go. You should thank me. And I said, gracias. And I drove away. But I felt like,
I
okay,
love that.
not today,
Yeah.
Satan, like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, but that is so brave to just like stand up to him. You know what I mean? And just say, but like you're saying, you did your research, you read about it, you knew how to handle it ahead of time. So smart. Yep.
Yeah. And that's, I mean,
Wow.
yeah, you can't research every single situation, but
Hmm.
when you decide that you want to do something, it gives you peace of mind to do a little
Yeah.
research, of course, right?
Hmm. Especially that, like specifically driving through the country. Like, what are the tips? What do I need to know about this? Like, really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
you were totally prepared.
I talk about it a ton on my website. So I've shared a lot of my driving experiences in Mexico, a lot of my experiences with my pet in Mexico, things to do with like places to go, different apps and tools you need. There's so many
Nice.
perspectives. I think it's such a beautiful country. So I want to see as much as I can of it. But really
Yeah.
for me, driving is the best way to get around. So,
It's
yes,
amazing.
there were a few situations that will give anybody pause, but largely I've had such great experiences in Mexico, and
Hmm.
I want to share that with other people.
I love that. Yeah. And we'll have your blog in the show notes and talk about it at the end. But I hope you guys will all reach out, read, learn from her because it sounds like you've got a ton of experience. And Mexico is a huge destination, obviously, for a lot of the traveling therapists. They want to know how to manage Mexico. So, really glad to hear that. So, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is dating. How do you manage dating, traveling all over the place? Like, how does that work for you?
I know, and it's interesting because I think there's a couple different perspectives, or maybe a couple different criticisms. I'm not sure what to call it, but some people will kind of look at me and say, "Well, no wonder you have such bad luck with dating." And I talk about dating on my website too. They say, "No wonder you have such bad luck. You're moving around all the time." And I thought, oh, well, but I had bad luck in Phoenix when I lived there for 11 years
Yeah.
as well. Like nomadic lifestyle does not mean you're going to be luckier or not luckier. It
Yes.
means actually, I feel like my dating pool is larger. I'm meeting more
Oh.
people more often. I'm, like the apps, basically, I'm never ending on the apps because if I were in Phoenix, like I would get to the end at some point. But now,
Yeah, same guys over and over again.
yeah. But now I'm, there's constantly either my location is changing or people are coming into these like big, huge cities that I'm in. So I think like my dating pool has expanded.
Hmm.
But at the same time, yeah, you're introducing a lot of other variables like cultural
Mhm.
differences and different experiences and different people who want different things. And
Yeah.
that's, I mean, granted, that is something you're gonna encounter wherever you are. But it is very interesting. I feel like I've had better luck with non-Americans,
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
that I find them to almost be like more serious when it comes to
Oh,
dating. Like maybe they're not as, maybe they're like a little bit more mature too.
oh yeah.
Non-Americans seem a little bit more mature, perhaps. I don't know. When I first went nomadic, I was traveling around the US and I traveled for about a year and a half. So I was dating all around the US, and there were some cities that I'm like, I would never ever date in this city. Like,
Oh
ugh,
wow.
like it's slim pickings. Oh my gosh. I just encountered some very problematic outlooks in
Oh
men.
gosh. Oh
But then
wow.
other cities that I was like, okay, I could actually like, maybe I'll just drop this
Yeah.
positive anecdotal thing. But there's so many guys, cute guys, nice guys in Kentucky.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I like there's a lot of options for me in Kentucky. You got a little bit of that Southern gentleman, but then a little bit of the
Yeah.
Midwest nice at the same time. Like
Oh yeah.
it was a really nice blend. But as far as like after leaving the US and then spending 4 months in Europe, I met some really great guys in Europe. I've met some great guys in Mexico. Not necessarily like it's not just Mexicans in Mexico. There's a lot of other people here too. A lot of
Yeah.
Europeans have moved here, as well as other like nomads and expats. So I think there's the same challenges that you run into
Yeah.
anywhere, but I do feel really confident and that it's a good move for me to sort of expand my dating pool, because I'm going to have
Hmm.
problems wherever I go with like meeting the guy, because we don't meet the guy every day of our lives, for your
Right.
single readers, that it's very needle haystack kind of thing. So the other thing the other outlook that I embody is just like, I'm not here like traveling the world searching for a man. I'm here living my life, doing the things I love to do. Sometimes I like company. Sometimes I meet people doing the things that I like to do, and they like to do it too. And I appreciate that. But really, like, my life is so full and rich that when I meet a guy, he's got to add to it. He's got to add to my life. He's got to make my already rich life even tastier. And if he doesn't do that, then it's like, well, it's not really giving me what it needs to give me for me to continue this. And so I'm very cutthroat and very fine saying, like, when this isn't working for me, like,
Let's move on.
let's call it a day. Let's call it a day. And of course he can do the same because it goes both ways. And I'm just optimistic that someone will come cross my path when the time is right. But in the meantime, I'm just living my life and just trying to be open to the people around me and the experiences around me.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's great. So I just wonder, is there like an expat dating app, or is it like you just like it's like Tinder in every country, or is there like a special tip for people that are like dating in Mexico that you go look for people to date, or is it just like we do in the United States?
Yeah. So, well, I think well, Tinder is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's almost like it's everywhere, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because then everyone's on it. I've started using Bumble, and Bumble has its flaws as well in some regards, but I don't know. I just feel like sometimes I put energy into it if I'm in the right headspace. A lot of times I don't put energy into it. To be frank, like, most of the guys that I've been interested in the last year, I met them in real life. Like,
oh, cool. Yeah.
I met a guy at the dog park here in Mexico. I met a guy at a restaurant in Greece. I met a guy in an Airbnb, like an apartment Airbnb in Hungary. And, these are guys that I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. And sometimes it is nice to meet people in real life. So I think that kind of goes back to my encouragement is just go out and do the things you like to do, the things that you're passionate about, the things that you enjoy, and other people will be along for the ride if they're interested in it too. And then you have something in common. You can start as friends and, see where things go. And I think that's just like such a nice, natural way to approach dating as well.
I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. I couldn't even imagine the dating scene now being a digital nomad. I've been with my guy for 21 years and we met on Match.com, that's how long ago that was. But it's really cool to hear how you're navigating that, just kind of like letting the natural thing happen as it wants to. It's really good. Yeah.
Well, I will say one, I think it's been challenging for me, especially meeting some of these guys with, what's the way to say it, traditional mindsets. And I think some of them are either very intimidated or their self-esteem is threatened to find out that I'm a nomad, because
interesting.
They're used to sort of the woman being the one who's at home pining after him instead of out living her life. And when the tables are turned, when the script is flipped, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm out doing this thing and I'm enjoying my life and I'm like meeting all these people. And then they're looking at me like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this. Like, I feel so threatened. She's obviously meeting all these guys all the time. And I think they can't necessarily wrap their head around that I'm in that, the man used to be the soldier, the sailor, the traveling salesman, the politician or whatever, who used to travel outside the home, and the woman would be at home cooking and keeping the house up. And now I'm the one who's roaming, and I'm the one who's out kind of living, and every day looks different, and it's a little bit of a wild card. And I think guys will look at that and they'll say to themselves, ooh, I want that life for me, but I don't want that for her. Like, I want to be her. I don't want to date her. And that I find that actually, like, really sad because you've just made an assumption about me.
Right.
And it's your insecurity talking. And so when that happens, and nobody, of course, comes right out and says it, but I have a little bit of an inkling. It is disappointing because it's like, okay, you know what they say about assumptions, but
Yep.
like I can't convince somebody of something if their mind's made up,
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such an interesting point. Yeah,
I
because
could
and
write.
you're probably moving on. It's like, hey, if you want to date me, you might have to come along with me or, give up your whole life. And,
Well, and
yeah, it's
I do
interesting.
think, I think anybody who, especially if you plan to be nomadic for a while, I need that guy to have a little bit of location flexibility,
Yeah.
like he's not going to be able to just like work at a grocery store every day. He needs to have a job that will give him some flexibility or some means to be flexible around the world. I'm not saying you need to come along with me every single day, but no, I would expect us to sort of see each other once a month or, something like that.
Yeah.
And so it does. I mean, to a degree, it does make things harder to date, but I think you come across more options. So
Yes. Very
pros and cons. It's
interesting.
always a
Yes,
trade-off.
always. Well, thank you so much. It's been super interesting. And how do people reach out to you if they want to learn more about you or get involved with your life and learn from you? How do they reach you?
Yeah, so I have a website. I have tons of content there. It's called juliedevivre.com and the spelling is Juliel. Sorry, I just messed it up. Juliedevivre.com. See, that's what happens when I think too fast. I get ahead of myself.
Yeah.
And there you'll find tons of my blogs. All my blogs are for free. I also have an ebook there where I talk about how to take a sabbatical, money and mindset. And then I'm also offering group trips for people who are like, I kind of want to be, maybe they're like, I kind of want to be nomadic, but I can only take like a couple weeks here and there, a couple times a year. And if you want to join me on a trip, I also think that's great for people who are maybe, well, I don't know about that destination. Like I'm not quite there yet. My courage is not quite to that level yet, but I still want to experience something amazing. Then come with me because you can follow in my footsteps literally, and you don't have to worry about the planning and logistics and all the, the navigating yourself. So I'm happy to offer those group trips to people. And also all my social links are on my website as well. So you can really find, connect with me whichever way works for you. And of course, if you have any questions or there's any burning information you want to dig deep on, you can also schedule time with me or just send me an email and I'll see what I can rustle up for you.
Nice. Oh, perfect. And we'll put all the links in the show notes too, so you guys can reach out if you want to. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
Thank you so much for listening to the Traveling Therapist podcast. For show notes, links, and downloads, head over to thetravelingtherapist.com, where you'll be able to learn more about my journey, the courses I've created for you, and other exciting resources to make your dreams become a reality. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your traveling therapist friends, subscribe to the podcast, and if you loved this episode, please leave a review.